Hey guys, Katie Kimball here. Sorry I'm 3 minutes late. For some reason, I always forget which buttons to press to start this thing, and I end up like watching as a participant, like waiting for host to start. I'm like, I know, I'm looking for the place to start. So yeah, sometimes me and technology, no matter how many notes I leave for myself, just don't always get along. So yes, you guys are here. Yay. I'm gonna try to make sure I keep up like watching the comments. Sometimes I have to switch windows to do that though. So just forgive me if I start like messing with stuff. Whew, you are here for the April 2019 Concierge Experience Office Hours for Kids Cook Real Food. I'm Katie Kimball. Your kids know me as Mrs. Kimball. And today we're going to talk a little bit about washing produce. In your membership, you'll find this in class 7, all kid video, because I think washing produce is something that spans the age groups. The little kids, middle-sized kids, big kids, everybody should know at least a little bit about washing produce. Even if the little tiniest kids, are just playing in the water, it's good for them to be interacting with vegetables and making friends with those vegetables, right? So I have a couple of vegetables here, and we'll talk a little bit about washing produce and why we do it, and then the very new and kind of mind-blowing fact that I've learned that's changed everything in our house about washing veggies. There's different kinds of produce brushes. This is what we currently have. It's what we used in our thematic skill labs. I think this is actually a dishwashing brush, but it's a little more similar to the one that we used in the videos, which was like more of a rounded brush with a big long handle. I don't think it matters what kind of brush you use. I do think it's nice to use a brush because, you can see it getting the dirt off. And that's kind of important. So when you're washing any sort of vegetable or fruit, I forgot to grab an apple, but it's all kind of the same. So I have some radishes, and that's my example for little tiny things. We just kind of hold them between our thumb and forefinger and make sure under running water. That's the trick. Sometimes my kids won't turn the water on, or they'll scrub away. It's the most effective to do it under running water. I just, I don't want to splash my computer, to be honest. I don't want to get too close to my sink. But you just want to make sure that you're scrubbing, turning, and scrubbing under the running water. Something like a pepper, of course, you're going to hold in your whole hand, or like a potato. I grabbed a turnip instead of a potato because I had one close by. Any of those things you grab in your whole fist, and you want to rub up and down, and then make sure you get the ends, right? The pepper is going to hide a bunch of dirt and maybe other things, right? So why do we wash our vegetables? Dirt is only sort of the reason. It's actually like the lowest reason that we wash our veggies. What we really want to get off is like bird poop, and bug poop, and chemicals that might have been sprayed on the plants, or chemicals that might have even been sprayed, like apples and stuff have things put on them after they're picked on their way to the store. So I always feel like it's important to get those things off as much as possible. So we would want to scrub into some of those crevices on the top and bottom of a pepper. Now, an apple, interestingly enough, and I'm looking at my bag right over there, but I don't want to waste your time and grab it. Pretend this is a nice red apple, okay? I did a really cool produce wash test once with 8 different types of like either homemade recipes or store-bought things that are sold as a produce wash. And I tested apples, and I honestly thought that the second most effective way to wash an apple was your jeans. To just take it and rub it on your pants as hard as you can. Good old-fashioned, the way my dad always cleans his apples, right from the field, rub it on your jeans and eat it. So kids know that that's acceptable for apples too. And, apples are kind of nice. They don't usually have quite as many crevices. You don't really eat like the very crevice at the very top. That's part of the core. So that's another way that we did not talk about in the e-course that you can totally use, at least for apples, like really hard fruits. Citrus, you guys, so like oranges, lemons, and limes, I think those should always be washed, and I think they should always be scrubbed, even though we don't eat the peel. And here's why: because citrus molds really easily, and in order to get the citrus stuff from the fruit trees in like Florida or California, unless you live right next to an orchard, to your house, like I live in Michigan, which is very far from where oranges and lemons and limes are grown, they are pretty heavily sprayed with chemicals that are probably not very good for us and maybe quite bad for us. So I always wash oranges, grapefruits, lemons, and limes, and I always scrub them really well, just like I would on this pepper, all the way around, making sure I'm turning it 100%. I'd rather scrub it a little extra than not enough, because I really want to get those chemicals off, even on organic citrus, because I don't know, I don't trust it. Now no, I don't want to go there yet. I don't want to go to my like revelatory thing quite yet. Let me see if anybody's chatting here. I don't think so. Make sure Sonia's not telling me something's wrong. I don't think so. That's good. If you do have a comment, feel free to just put it in the comments, and I might see it right away. I think they pop up, but I'm not exactly sure. I know for little kids, starting out with anything long, cucumber, carrot, celery is great. Celery is kind of fun. I don't have a whole head of celery right now, but it always looks really dirty. Like when you start, you can pull each rib of celery off of the whole head, and you can see the dirt at the bottom. So like, you're doing a good thing when you scrub your celery. But like a zucchini, cucumber, carrot, those are really good for little kids. We do that just like peeling. We're going to hold half and scrub that under the water, turn, flip it around just like our peeling, and scrub that under the water. Lastly would be all your little things, okay? It's not quite berry season yet here in Michigan, so let's pretend that these cherry tomatoes are berries, right? So with our berries, we want to be really gentle. No brushes. We don't want to rub them really hard, because they're just going to smash all to bits. So with our berries, you could use a small or large colander and just run that under the water, and then I usually gently toss them around like a tossed salad, just to make sure that the water is touching everything. So we might do this for cherry tomatoes, strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, pea pods, stuff like that. That's just, you're not going to be able to scrub everyone. Using a colander, either a small one like this or a big, huge one, is really helpful. Do we need to use a produce wash? Some people swear by it. Some people put all their produce in a sink full of water with a little bit of vinegar, which is a mild antiseptic, antibacterial, to hopefully like maybe kill any germs that might be on there. Is that strong enough to kill germs? I don't know. Some also say that little bit of vinegar in the water can help something like berries last longer if you wash things first and then put them back in the fridge. I do have a produce wash, and I think this happens to be a BioClean. It's just in a reused foaming container, because what I found was that I was always using too much. It's a gel, kind of like a dish soap or a hand soap, and I always felt like I was getting way too much on, 1 apple or something. So I put maybe this much soap in here and the rest water, shook it up before I put the stem in, because we don't want to clog up the bottom hole with the straight gel. So you got to get it shaken up first, then put the top on. And now this can come out, 1 squirt. I'm not using very much soap, and I can just rub that on. Most produce washes ask you to let it sit. So I think that's why I'm like too lazy. I'm in too much of a rush usually to let that sit for a minute. So I tend to only use produce wash if I'm washing a lot, like a lot of apples for applesauce. I'll cover the bottom of my sink, squirt, rub it all around, do something else for a minute. And then I still take, with this produce wash, I'm still going to take my scrub brush, run the water on it, and rinse it off. And now I'm a little sticky, so hang on. I do need to go to my sink. Hey, so see me? Oh, yeah, you kind of can. And, then I would run the water on it and scrub that off. What has completely changed the way we think about washing produce in our house is that just about a month ago, some of you may be familiar with Wellness Mama, the blogger, if you follow her at all. She is one of the most brilliant people I know, has 6 kids. Like, she knows what's up with safety, and she has a wonderful podcast. I think it's just called the Wellness Mama podcast now. She interviews tons of really smart experts on health and wellness. And she interviewed a soil biologist who said, we are just not eating enough dirt. Like, people pay lots of money for probiotics like this, which are soil-based probiotics, because we're not getting healthy bacteria from the soil because we're too clean. It's really an ironic problem that we've caused for ourselves by trying to be healthy by cleaning things, and we've like overdone it. So he emphatically said, if you buy organic produce, don't wash it. Like, don't wash it at all. So I'm blessed to be like friends with the Wellness Mama family, and our whole family was visiting, and we were helping with dinner, and she had just kind of poured out these potatoes on the counter next to the cutting board, and the sink was across the room. And I said, I'm trying, you know, when you're in someone else's house, you try to do things the way they do them to be respectful. And so it was my gut reaction to take all the potatoes and wash them. But I said to her, were you gonna wash these? Like, are they washed, or were you just gonna cut them? And she told me that story of this expert who had said, if it's organic, don't wash it. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, imagine how many minutes and dozens of hours that will save me over my lifetime. And so I cut those potatoes and we ate them and nobody died. And so now when we got home, I had organic carrots in my fridge and I take them out, and it's everything in me wants to throw them in the sink and wash them. And I'm like, okay, kind of like brush off the big chunks, and I cut them and we eat them. And I do the same. I put had some organic potatoes. I don't always have organic, so I'll still wash them if they're not organic, because that's what the soil biologist said, and he's a really smart guy. But I just took a big bag of potatoes and poured them. This is my stove. I poured them out onto the stove and separated them and popped out a couple weird looking spots with my paring knife and baked them. And I thought that was really weird. Felt really strange, but I know, it's not like they're directly out of the ground. They've been rinsed before they get to the store. I was like, huh. So talk about a time saver. This zucchini is organic. I feel like because I bought it in a store and it's probably been touched by a lot of people, maybe. I think I still might rinse it. I don't know. But the ones that are in the bag, that hasn't really been on the conveyor belt at the store or anything. So talk about a weird feeling. Y'all can take it or leave that one, but that's Mrs. Kimball's new fact of the month. That's my new thing that I have learned in April 2019. And it's kind of revolutionizing my kitchen. Like I said, I'm not washing our organic stuff. It's saving me a lot of time, but it feels really weird. So, who knows? I don't know. The last thing I wanted to say is just make sure if you've got mushrooms, take a look at the class 7 video, because we do talk about how to wash mushrooms. I just don't have any whole ones right now. You can kind of imagine with a radish, because mushrooms are kind of tender. They get slimy if you run them under running water. So just use a wet cloth and kind of wipe off the visible dirt. If they're organic, I don't know, I guess eat the dirt. On mushrooms, sometimes you can see big clods of dirt. So you may want to still knock off the big clouds, especially if you're feeding company. Can you imagine someone eating a raw mushroom in a salad and being there's a huge chunk of dirt on this? You would have a story to tell them. You'd have research to back it up. But if they're not the right kind of person, that might freak them out. So this is a very, I feel like it's an individual decision. But now you have the information that Mrs. Kimball has. Isn't that weird? Do you guys think that's weird? You can comment. It's okay. It makes me still feel kind of funny. Goodness, it says there's an error on the watching part. I hope this is recording. I think it is. I think it's recording. What do we got? 3:17. That was pretty good. Actually, I was pretty on time with that part. I say for the first 15 minutes, we'll recap a skill and talk about troubleshooting. As far as troubleshooting, honestly, is there a wrong way to wash a vegetable? If it's organic, apparently not. Your standards can become really low, parents. If it's not organic, then the troubleshooting is just asking those questions. Do you think you scrubbed all the parts? And I like to say to my kids, did you get all the bird poop off? If a bird or a bug pooped on that, are you cool with eating it? So I don't know if that grosses them out too much, but they still eat the foods. So for our family, that's a question that we ask. It's a great way to get kids involved with food. Again, even at little ages, even if they're ineffective, little tiny 2- and 3-year-olds, and they're not really doing much, but they're kind of, making a little mess, but feeling helpful. I think that's an important thing to do. And so there's not a whole lot of troubleshooting to do with washing produce. I did have one question come in, and then I promised you a couple things. I think I got to look at my list of questions from my summary, but I had a question come in about smoothies. And this person wants to know, like, what kinds of things do I stuff into smoothies? What are the reasons that I put those in there? And then some non-dairy alternatives. So our daughter, Leah, who's 10, discovered she was sensitive to dairy in the fall. It's been difficult. It's been difficult for our family to adapt, really. I know how to cook non-dairy, but I think it's been really difficult for Leah to be out of her routine. She doesn't get to take yogurt to school anymore, and we took yogurt every single day for lunch. Ugh, what a bummer. We've tried a couple different recipes to substitute for yogurt. Chia pudding. Mary Vogt at Just Take a Bite has a really cool pumpkin yogurt that's just, it's pumpkin and gelatin and stuff, and both of them have not gone over well. Like maybe she takes them on the first day and then she doesn't like them anymore, or like chia pudding, it just gets bad fast. It just declines in quality after like 2 days. So we have not yet figured out our yogurt alternative, which is really sad. I did buy a non-dairy yogurt starter. We just need to find time to do it. Maybe this afternoon when I get off this call. So as far as smoothies though, in my opinion and my experience, a smoothie can be made with any liquid base. So it can be water. It can be coconut water. Almond milk is fine. I prefer a can of coconut milk only because I really want those healthy fats in there. If I'm going to give my kids a smoothie, I know there's got to be fruit to get the sweetness right. And so I want healthy fats and protein if possible to offset that. So in general with our family, we use milk and yogurt, or just yogurt, or sometimes just milk, depends on what we have around. So if I'm doing non-dairy, I prefer that nice full fat canned coconut milk to get the fat in there. There's still not protein, but I get that in there in other ways. So as far as a base, I think this person who asked the question said, I don't know what to sub for yogurt when it comes to the dairy, non-dairy, and that's okay. Like, just use the liquid. You can creamy it up. If you're not using the full fat canned coconut milk, you can creamy it up with either some like white beans, just like a 1/4 cup, not a lot because you don't want to taste them, but that will add protein. Cooked white beans, about a 1/4 cup, depending on how much you're making, right? You might learn that you can sneak more in if you're making like a family size blunderful. White beans or avocado. A half or to a whole avocado is amazing for creaminess. And you got to kind of hit the right ratio if you don't want that flavor, but an avocado is amazing and that's healthy fats and good creaminess. Another kind of, I don't know if it's creamy, but you can mix in cooked sweet potato or even canned pumpkin. All those cooked like orange veggies are things that people don't think of all the time for smoothies, but that can add a little bit of bulk. Again, maybe a 1/2 cup. You don't want to overdo it unless you're making a pumpkin smoothie. My son has a recipe in his cookbook that'll be coming out probably for the holiday season called like a fall special smoothie. And it's got applesauce and cooked orange vegetables in it, and then like a pumpkin pie spice flavor. So then you want to taste it. But usually you're trying to just hide it under a banana and a bunch of strawberries or berries or whatever. Now, what else do I cram in there? I mentioned protein. And I do think protein is important, especially when you've got the non-dairy. So I always put in at least a scoop, if not 2, of collagen. This happens to be Perfect Supplements brand. They are having a sale right now, I believe. If you go to kitchenstewardship.com/perfect supplements, use our coupon code KS10. That's good at any time for 10% off anything. But I believe right now, if you buy 3 of these, you can get 30% off. Or three of any Perfect product. So I have one of these in my cart and vitamin D, and I'm deciding on what else I need. So not gelatin. Do I have gelatin here? Shoot. I do. Gelatin is what you have, hopefully, for class 6 beginner, making that Jell-O and that like homemade finger gelatin with 100% grape juice. This is my gelatin. It's a different brand. They're both great brands. Whatever. However, gelatin's protein too, but if you put gelatin in your blender, it's going to bind it up because it will very quickly thicken when it hits all the cold things that are in there. So don't use gelatin in a smoothie. Use collagen, which is just gelatin a little bit further broken down. If you've ever made your own bone broth, when you cook it for about 4 hours, it really gels up amazing. If you cook it for 24 hours, it's good for you too, but it often doesn't gel. And that's because the gelatin that makes it gel has been broken down into collagen. So it's not like a weird unnatural processing thing. It's just kind of like just continuing to cook your broth. So collagen, I'm putting this in a lot of Leah's stuff right now because she's having trouble. I feel like she's having trouble getting enough calories and fat and protein. So gelatin is awesome protein. I want to say it's 2 scoops is like 20 grams. 1 scoop. Oh yeah, 1 scoop is 11 grams. So that's pretty decent actually as protein sources go. I also put in a little, maybe it's like a half teaspoon. I don't measure anything. I just pour a little bit into like my lid so I don't overdo it, and then dump it into my blender. This is kelp powder for iodine, because iodine is a nutrient that we need to get from our environment. It's fortified in table salt, but we use real salt. So it's not fortified. It's found in trace amounts. And so I just always feel like it's a good chance to sneak a little kelp and iodine in. There are many other minerals and many other benefits to sea vegetables. Unfortunately, my kids don't like to munch on seaweed paper. Some kids do. That's awesome. So this is the only way for me to get seaweed into my kids. So I throw a little in there. We have a couple different sources we've used for vitamin C. I like to get a little vitamin C powder, particularly in the winter, into our smoothies. So this is Camu powder. I thought it was called Camu. Maybe it's just Camu. Anyway, this is super high vitamin C, whole food source. Again, this is like a half teaspoon, maybe. If you're making it for one person, like a quarter teaspoon. There are other cool sources of vitamin C. Baobab powder, I think, is one of them. But any sort of powder where you can like pump up the vitamin C is never a bad idea, because it's a smoothie and it'll hide. I have some antioxidant blends, and I have some greens blends. I think greens are important to get in there. So if you have frozen greens, great, like throw in a bunch. If you have fresh greens, throw in a bunch. Like when we make kale chips, we save the stems, and those get thrown in the next smoothie along with some other greens. So I prefer to have fresh or recently frozen greens that were fresh. And if you're worried about the oxalates in spinach and kale and stuff like that, super lightly steam those first. Okay, just buy a big old bag of Power Greens or organic spinach or whatever from Costco. Get your steam going in your pot. Throw in a couple handfuls. Set the timer for like 60 seconds. Pull that out onto a towel. Throw some more in. Pull it out into a towel, and then just pat it dry. Stick it into a freezer bag. You try to keep it kind of thin, and it just freezes, and then you can just kind of crack it up on your counter and throw a bunch in your smoothie. So that's like freezer greens. We also, where's that? Hang on, let me grab something. Aha, I forgot something too. So I have in the past, and there are instructions on kitchen stewardship for this, I've done that process, slightly steaming the greens, and then just spread them all out on my dehydrator trays. Dehydrated them, throw them in the blender. And so like, I think this used to be full up to about here. It's maybe a cup or two. And that was an entire like Costco size 3-pound bag of greens. It's amazing how small it gets. So we'll use this. If I don't have any other greens, I'll put this in a smoothie. But I prefer to use this in places like eggs, where my kids will pick out the slimy greens, but they don't notice this. Most of the time, if you overdo it, then you can taste it. But anyway, just some way to get greens in, right? Whether it's a powder or whether it's a bag of spinach or some kale. Another way for fat and protein is chia seeds. So I buy them in bulk in a bag and just put them in this kind of container. It's just a reused, it looks like it's candy. Sometimes it's nuts from Costco, because I think it's easier to take a lid off and kind of measure, eye it up into a lid. I'm going to do at least a couple tablespoons up to maybe a quarter cup. If you have a high-powered blender, a Blendtec or a Vitamix. If you have, a $7, $12 blender from Walgreens or from Bed Bath & Beyond, you might not want to use these, because you'll still be able to feel them in your smoothie. Some people love that. Some people buy bottled drinks with like little chia seeds floating in them. I'm not that kind of person, but it just depends like what you and your kids like. Chia seeds are awesome. You could also do flax seeds or hemp seeds. So all three of those are really good sources of omega-3 fats and protein, plant-based protein. So they're great. They're great to mix into your smoothies. If you don't have a high-powered blender, be on the lookout at garage sales for a coffee grinder. Okay, I'm gonna go grab that too. I'm glad I'm in my kitchen, right? Like I can just get stuff. Okay, this was something I was on the lookout for. I saw it at a garage sale, $1. It's lasted 5 to 10 years. I don't know when I got this. We've had it for a really long time. It is a dedicated coffee grinder for seeds. We put chia or flax only in here and whiz it up, and then we can have freshly ground flaxseed for recipes when we need to substitute for eggs. My youngest was allergic to eggs for a couple of years, And so that we put the flax in there. And so if you don't have a high-powered blender, you can still use flax or chia if you can pre-grind them, right? Then you can just throw them in. That makes sense? And then the other thing I realized I forgot to grab because it was hiding on another shelf is cacao powder. This is very high in magnesium and antioxidants, and it's a great brain booster. I think this week we're publishing a post on brain boosting foods to eat before and during standardized tests. And chocolate is the surprising food that my experts that I got to speak to recommended because it does have some brain boosting qualities. Cacao powder is going to be the best way to get it in because it's less processed than cocoa powder. And like if you're just eating chocolate, there's always sugar involved and sometimes dairy, right? If it's milk chocolate. So just adding some cacao powder to your smoothie is a great idea. Now, again, that's bitter. So you got to have enough like bananas or strawberries or whatever to compensate. John, you got to get closer. I can't read your note. John's being really smart. He's like holding up a note, but I can't read it. It's in light. You're going to Simon's. Okay, buddy, thank you. Is Gabe going too? Can Gabe go for at least a little bit while I'm doing this? Okay, yeah, have fun, guys. That was a good idea. You just got to write in black next time. Okay, it's real life, right? It's Sunday afternoon. It is what it is. Oh my gosh, did I cover everything? I'm looking at looking at all this smoothie stuff. Watch. Crazy. It's a whole shelf in my kitchen. It's a whole like smoothie shelf. I think I've talked about all of it. The beautiful thing to me about smoothies is that as long as you don't push the ratio too far, you can fit in a whole bunch of stuff. I'll put in probiotics too. I didn't even get that out because that's in my fridge. I have a probiotic powder. So what do you put in smoothies? Mandatory is a liquid, right? Mandatory for me at least is some fat and some protein. How you get that in there? Seeds, milk, yogurt, collagen, no matter. Avocado, right? All good fat and protein sources. And then it's like you can look up a recipe or you can make up a recipe. A lot of them use a lot of fruit, which is fine as long as you've got some fat and protein. I would never personally add an actual sweetener to a smoothie like a maple syrup or a honey or sugar unless I had made one with all these good like expensive ingredients and my kids said, it's not happening, Mom. Now I'm going to start adding a little bit of honey bit by bit until they'll drink it because I don't want to throw anything away. Does that make sense? But I don't see smoothies as a good place to be adding sugars on purpose to our kids' diet. Yes, there's got to be something a little sweet in there and if you're going to get, greens and stuff in there. Oh, another way, you guys, dairy-free to make a creamy smoothie. And hat tip to the Blender Girl for this one. You could check out her website. She's got amazing smoothies, the Blender Girl. I think all of them are dairy-free, most of them. What she'll do is take raw cashews. So not the salted kind that are like really addictive and you eat them too long. But raw cashews, usually you got to go to a health food store for those. Soak them in water for like 2 hours. Drain off the water and add those to your smoothies. Again, just like a half cup. It's not too much. And that's fat, protein, and fiber. So nuts are always great to eat as long as you can tolerate nuts. Those cashews will thicken up creamy up a smoothie almost as if you have milk and cream in there. It's amazing. It's amazing. So if you are dairy-free, that cashew trick is definitely something to try and look up the Blender Girl. She's got I think it's like a kale, tastes like ice cream smoothie. It's one of her most popular smoothies. It uses that strategy. So look that one up. It's really, really good. I think that's all I want to say about smoothies. Squeeze in as much as you can. Especially if your kids love smoothies, if you're loving smoothies, they're great. One quick tip to make sure that you have time to do the smoothie, right, is that you can, if you're doing smoothies regularly, best way to do that, and we teach this in our Healthy Breakfast Thematic Skill Lab. We have the littlest kids, our beginner kids, make smoothie bags. So we get out a bunch of quart bags, and you can put them in containers so that they kind of hold open. And then you get out a bunch of your frozen fruit, bananas, and your greens. And so you take your child, this is great for the kids to do, takes the fruit, puts a bunch of strawberries in all 5 quart bags, some other, maybe blueberries, half a banana or a whole banana, a big handful or 2 of greens, and then you've got, a bunch of your ingredients all in one bag in the freezer, and you can just whip that out, dump it into your blender, add your liquid, and go. And then for all of these like dry ingredients, they're not going to do well. They're going to stick to the side of the bag and you're going to waste a lot in that quart bag in the freezer. So then I would put those separately. If plastic is all you have, I don't have any sandwich bags left. That was not me. Just a little zippered sandwich bag works, or maybe little tiny jars, like reused from little sauces or minced garlic or something. If you could get 5 or 6 of them and put them in a box, then you can, because believe it or not, this starts to add up. Sometimes I get up to almost like a half cup or even closer to a whole cup. Again, especially if you're using seeds and stuff. So you might even need like a little pint jar. That would be cool. I do have those. Hold on. I always feel like I want to give examples, right? So you could just get out 4 or 5 of these pint jars and put all your dry ingredients in there, right? Then it's dump in the quart bag, dump in the pint jar, pour in your liquid, blend it, and you're done. That's breakfast or snack or whatever. So that's just kind of Mrs. Kimball's hot tip on making this fast for busy families and tired mamas, because I know the person who asked that question is a tired mama who's having a rough pregnancy and maybe might need that tip. Kids, do that for your mom. Okay, you guys can do that. Measure out all these little pieces and put it together for your mom. Nut butter. I just keep thinking more things. There's so many ways to make a great smoothie. Nut butter is another awesome way to add a good flavor, maybe cover up some of the bitterness of the greens, and get a little bit of that creaminess going on too. Now, taking a quick peek to see if I missed any questions. I don't think so. And that will do it. Just to keep you guys sort of caught up as my Concierge Experience special members, this is probably the last, maybe second to last time you will see this kitchen behind me, because it's so much work. But we are remodeling. We're pushing down some walls. I'm going to get a pantry for the first time in my life. It will be a much more bright and beautiful kitchen for video. So I'm super excited to be able to do video from our new kitchen, but it will also be torn up the whole summer. So I have no idea what these concierge lessons will be in the summer. We're going to be traveling all around America to try to escape our remodel. Like, we're literally just going to visit friends and stop at Airbnbs and experience the world. And I'm excited that it'll be an adventure and a little bit terrified that things could go south with a lot of people in the van too often. So praying that it's more the former and less the latter. But yeah, so we will have the really cool new kitchen to show you and kind of talk about that process and how we thought about different things and keeping it kid-friendly and keeping it really efficient. I think my designer, who's of course she's a designer, so she's like all about beautiful aesthetics. And every time I choose efficiency over beauty, she's like, okay, you're the boss. And I'm like, nope, got to be able to throw stuff away quickly or whatever. Like, I just want it efficient because there's 6 of us and we cook a lot and we take a lot of time in here. So in my new kitchen, yes, I will still have a smoothie area. It might be in the pantry. I think all of my appliances are being relegated to a counter in the pantry. So probably I'll have my blender on the counter, and then either right under or right above will be like a basket. I'm hoping a basket with all these little things tucked in there. So I can just pull that down and make my smoothies. So we'll see if we get in. We're not in a good like daily smoothie habit. If we do, I'm totally, using my own strategies, because we've done that before. My husband and I have done some like gut healing stuff where we were drinking a lot of smoothies and then we would totally batch them. But it's not quite worth it if you're only doing it once a week. It just takes up space. So, oh my goodness, Chris, I hope that was helpful very, very much. And I'm blessed by you guys. I'm blessed by you members. I'm so happy that your kids are getting in the kitchen and that you're cooking and that you're passing on these important life skills and really connecting as a family around healthy food. That's what's important to me. I hope this was helpful. I hope that the mind-blowing tip about not washing organic food was like okay for you. And that the smoothie part was helpful as well. Looking forward to next month. And definitely always feel free to send over questions, right? If you want suggestions on helping kids to eat more vegetables, we can totally talk about that. We can talk about the actual classes, how to get started, how to get back into it. And we can just anything about the skills in the classes or recipes or kids cooking, of course, is on the table. But anything else about kitchen, parenting, real food, whatever, ask away. Thank you very much for being here. I'm Mrs. Kimball for Kids Cook Real Food.